Before we begin, the Gamers Advocate would like to remind you that any episode could contain game spoilers, so watch or listen with discretion. And now your hosts, AMKomnenos, Banana and Legion. Enjoy the show.
Well, welcome on into this version of the Gamers Advocate podcast. The Steam Machine was just recently announced, and we didn't have many details to cover, but Com and myself talked a little bit about it. What's going to be interesting about the Steam Machine is that you're going to be able to play a lot of your Steam games on your TV or just use it as a regular PC. So it will be marketed as such. They haven't announced how much it's going to cost. It's what everybody's been asking about. But they said it would be competitive with something like a PC. So it may not be as cheap as people might be expecting. It might even run $1,000, but we have no information just yet. But at the moment, we do know that it has an AMD 6-core Zen 4 processor, semi-custom AMD RDNA3, 8GB, which is the GDDR6, which can support ray tracing in it. So things like Cyberpunk and stuff should look pretty clean. They are saying that you should be able to play in 4K at 60 frames a second without any problems. To be determined. It's going to have 16 gigabytes of a DDR5. You can upgrade from the 512 gigabytes to 2 terabytes for the storage, and also comes with a micro SD slot. Connecting devices include a USB Type-C 10 gigabyte, 2 USB 2 Type A's, an Ethernet connection, an HDMI 2.0. It is set up for the 2.1, but the features are not integrated as such, so they're not calling it 2.1 just yet. And the DisplayPort, which will be a 1.4 connection. The interesting thing for me and Com was the controller itself. They've changed it. They haven't changed the name of it, but they're still calling it the Steam controller, which could be a little confusing because the current Steam controller doesn't look the same at all. Some of their haptic features have been moved to a different location. The battery on the inside, I believe, is going to be a little bit larger, and the haptic or the rumble portions of that are larger as well, which can give you more reaction to it. But the surface level haptic features are going to be in a different position as well, and they appear to be operating a little differently than the current one. So again, they are going to be keeping the same name, but they are changing how the Steam controller works or looks. But without further ado, let's look into the conversation that me and Com had about the Steam Machine. In today's episode, Beatles songs based on time signature. Guess them.
Played a game recently. It's 1 second Beatles songs, and it's just a random moment from Beatles songs. It'll play 1 second of the song, and you got to guess it. And I think I got 94%, if I remember correctly. I wasn't 100%. A few on the White Album got me. Just that I don't listen to that often, especially like some of the more obscure ones like Honey Pie. I think I missed some of those.
Yeah, that one's...
But
yeah.
White Album's not my favorite.
I've been so far removed from music, but I've always got confused because I love She's So Heavy. I love that song. But I do think it starts, 6/8, then 4/4?
Boom, 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 boom. Dun 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 dun. That's 6/8, yeah. And then I think the I want you. Dun, dun, dun. I think that's a straighter beat. Yeah, it might be 4/4.
Yeah, because it always has that wants to get into it, you really I want you, and then it gets into that melodramatic. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, oh man, it's great.
Oh, it's so good. That inspired loads of songs in metal in particular, because at the very end, you know how the song just cuts out, it doesn't fade or anything. A load of metal bands have done that, inspired directly by that song. The only one that comes to mind is Dream Theater. Their song Pull Me Under ends very similarly. It's just going really chuggy, and all of a sudden just whoop. And they said it's inspired directly by I Want You, She's So Heavy by the Beatles.
I love the history of certain songs, how things were made sometimes they're not what you think. Mm-hmm. It's Welcome to the Jungle. The Sweet Child of Mine was just something that Slash put together, and he did almost kind of jokingly. Mm-hmm. And Axl was like, no, that's good. And Slash did not want to put it on the album. He didn't want to make a song about it because he thought it sounded ridiculous. He was joking around when he did that riff, and now it's like
right. So the actual guitar part, the main one.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess if I had to, it's probably like it was some like string skipping exercise or something, because every single note you jump strings. We'll try to do something like that. It's weird sounding. I think if I ever just played that out of nowhere, I probably wouldn't think it was very good. Because it sounds so horribly poppy and bright. You just find yourself thinking like, oh no, this is too much. This is too much. But it sounds so good. I
saw this breakdown, and because I've always loved Izzy, his offsetting with Izzy Stradlin. I just love Izzy so much. If you go back and look at what his contributions were for those first couple albums, just amazing. And but I saw like the Welcome to the Jungle where they overlap each other. I just didn't know how complex they actually were, and it was so good.
The rhythm parts for those are a lot of those songs are pretty hard because he fills a lot of space. And especially because like when they were playing live, they recorded it. Appetite for Destruction, it's quite like a live album. There's not layers and layers and layers of guitars. On Use Your Illusion, there's fucking loads. Appetite's much more stripped back, and the songs still sound really full, just because the rhythm parts were kind of interesting. It's like Night Train. In the end, it's Slash is playing the rhythm more than Izzy is, just because that's the way it worked out. But when they're playing the main riff, the and like Izzy's playing the individual notes, and Slash is playing dyads and triads based on the same notes, and it just sounds so full. And when you put it like in your headphones and you listen to the one ear really intently, then the other, and then listen to them together, the way they mesh is awesome.
It's kind of like like some of those songs, like in hindsight, they don't surprise you. Like It's So Easy is actually an Izzy, Duff McKagan and the drummer song. They wrote that one together. And it sounds like, when you think about the bass riff. Because it sounds so different from the other stuff with Axl and stuff. So
I was talking to our friend Jem about this the other day because she'd never heard that whole album all the way through. So we listened to that, Use Your Illusion 1, Use Your Illusion 2, and she's heard Chinese Democracy before. And I was saying It's So Easy is one of my favorite songs. It's also one of the songs I've most played in covers live. Because a lot of Guns N' Roses songs with the vocals so high and so screechy, not many singers can do it and have it sound good. I would suggest even Axl can't a lot of the time, but a lot of your average singers can't. But It's So Easy, like in that lower range, it just sounds so cool. You know, it's much more like strutting than the other songs are. Mr. Brownstone is the same. It's very, very doable.
Yeah, Night Train is just
I love Night Train. One of my favorites on the record.
So many songs on that album. Oh,
there's like two on there where I'm just like, okay, I don't like this, which is I think it's like You're Crazy and Anything Goes.
But even You're Crazy on the acoustic one, it's like
on the Lies album, yeah, it's really good. Yeah. The problem they have is just they're two good songs on a record of 10 fantastic songs. So just by comparison, like I'm sorry, but if you're just before Rocket Queen, that's hard because that's an amazing song.
Yeah, Rocket.
That's my favorite, actually.
Really?
I think that's my favorite. Yeah.
The woman it's about that's an interesting little story too, because I think that was Axl's girlfriend at the time, and then she wasn't at the time they recorded it though, but he still kept it. So. Oh, I didn't know. Welcome to a cozy episode of the Gamers Advocate podcast, where it's just AMKomnenos and myself, Legion. We are banana free, unfortunately. Not by choice. He is unfortunately not with us. So also we will be discussing Baldur's Gate 3 since he's not here. No, we won't. There's some things that have occurred, like the Steam announcing their console thing, but what got me was the controller. The controller, they're really happy about, they're really gung-ho about, but if you look at it, it looks like a brick from like the Xbox, the original Xbox.
I get the feeling this isn't going to get the traction they think it is. The console, very possibly. I think it's a beautiful console. I think the console might actually have a place in the world. There are people who want that pretty mid-range gaming PC, specifically aimed for gaming. They want to be able to bring their Steam library onto their television. They want to have that ease of use. I think there's almost certainly going to be a market for that. It's not going to be what the PS5 has, but then again, it's not supposed to. Very few consoles will ever get to those levels. But we're probably going to see a mid to upselling console. I think that's great. It's more competition, and anything, honestly, that brings Steam to a potentially wider market, I think is probably good for us as gamers. Because we think about like the way that Steam games go on sale, we think about the prices you tend to get there, think about the general user friendliness, compare it to PlayStation, compare it to Nintendo. Well, if we now have an easy way to get Steam onto a TV, maybe we might start to see some pressure from the other makers with their stores to possibly start thinking a bit more like Steam in the way that they develop. I don't know if we will, but I would really hope that we can start to see some of that pressure, just because now there may actually be genuine competition. On the other hand, the controller looks like a sack of rubbish. I am so disappointed that they're doing that. The original Steam controller was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing, and it didn't take off because I think we're kind of done with controllers. People know when they go to the store, get a PlayStation controller or get an Xbox controller. They're generally cross-compatible with other systems, like you can use it with your laptop. I don't know if there's really a market for a new controller. They lose nothing by trying, as far as I know. It's not going to be an enormous investment, so good for them for trying it, but I can't see any particular reason why we need it.
It's going to be the USB, I think, connection, so you're just going to connect your Xbox controller to it.
For real? Yeah. Like, I've got my Xbox controller dongle right here, and I've got the Xbox controller there. That's what I'll do.
And, I was kidding with I was like, lawsuit, because their controller, it looks very similar to our Gamers Advocate symbol. Just if you add like two little pad things below the little joystick things, which that's hand space. It's not ergonomic anymore, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that it makes sense. I feel that we've found, and I know this is a very hubristic thing to say, but I feel that we've found a shape for controllers that works pretty well, and we're going to struggle to beat the two things on each side: stick and D-pad on the left, stick and A, X, B, Y on the right-hand side. It's a really good shape. Your thumbs don't have to do too much. I'm going to think too much. You settle in just the right place. But the way that those pads are, like quite low down as well, you're going to be at this angle that you're not used to pushing your thumbs at. I just think it's going to look unwieldy. And I'm curious about touchpads on a controller. The original Steam controller had those sort of touchpads. I thought they were fantastic. It really felt like when you wanted to play games that needed a mouse, you could do it. You could play Civilization before Civilization was meant to be on controller. You could play Civilization using a controller on your TV. I just think the execution there, it looks utterly bizarre. I will try it when it comes out if I can, but it'll take a lot to beat the PlayStation and Xbox controllers.
Yeah, I tend to not use any touchpads for anything. If it's a laptop that has one, I just deactivate it. I don't need that to accidentally select something while I'm typing or something. So yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm wondering how reactive it's going to be, because there are people who. And I do this, for example, quite often. So let's say I'm playing a game, right? And I've got this here. And let's say I'm running forward, okay? And I want to do something with the right stick. Occasionally, there will be a moment when my thumb is kind of locked over here. I need to do something on the right. When I'll kind of like jump over just for a second to do something. Am I going to bump this pad that's now here with this hand? Am I going to activate something I don't want to? Because if so, I'm breaking now a 30-year habit. And that doesn't come easy. People don't do that.
And those sticks are now going to be parallel on the lower side, and the little D-pad that you have is now in a lot of action games used to scroll through your different menu options, like health potions or buffs or whatever. That's going to be on the upper left side of this controller.
Yes, the PlayStation look.
And now what am I doing with this other pad area? So I'm going to accidentally hit that thinking it's there, and I don't know. Yeah,
in the end, it's good for gamers that we get something new. So I'm glad they're doing it. There's nothing bad. It's not one of those investments where you think like, oh, this might actually put the company in jeopardy. This is a relatively small project. They can test out. They can have some fun. They're perfectly safe. So in the end, I'm glad they're doing it. I would be very surprised if it turns out that this is some seminal moment in controller design.
This is going to be
very
one
surprised.
of those podcasts. It's like, this podcast didn't age very well. Because remember when y'all said that controller was going to suck and it's the best controller that's ever happened?
Oh, I am prepared to keep my words. Yeah. If it turns out that it's great, good, I will happily be wrong. That's the kind of thing that I want to be wrong about. It's like when something that you really want to happen politically is happening, and you just find yourself thinking, I know they're going to mess this up. I'm not going to get what I want. You want to be wrong more than anything. With this, I hope I'm wrong. Steam have generally done great things for us, generally. Let's see.
Yeah, they got accused of being a monopoly.
Well, I mean, they are.
They are, but most monopolies are doing things out of, bad faith or just...
It's a weird one.
But they are just better than everybody else.
Yeah.
It's just fact.
They're not a monopoly in a market where the other companies don't have a chance. They are a monopoly by choice. In the end, this is still a monopoly, and there may be something that we should look into at some point. For now, I don't see any pressing need to. But the Epic Store has an equal footing. There's the Apple Store out there you can buy games from. There's the Microsoft Store that you can buy games from. There's the PlayStation Store if you're playing on your PlayStation. There's Nintendo. There's the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are other stores. Steam is just pretty good at what it does. It's very user-friendly. It's easy to use. It's extensive in the way that Netflix used to be. You don't need Steam and Epic and Microsoft. On the other hand, if Epic one day said, hold on, we're going to look at our games available on the Steam store and we're going to make them 20% cheaper, well, now Steam is going to struggle to hold on to that. There are ways to fight this. It's not a monopoly by state support. It's not a monopoly that's now strangle-holding its opposition. I don't inherently have a problem with it, but I am naturally suspicious of any monopolies, so there is a watchful eye on them for the future. But I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, they're not sending lobbyists to Congress to keep GOG under the carpet.
GOG is another one, yeah. Humble Bundle's out there. I think they've got their own launcher. And Steam is open to other third parties as well, so you can buy Steam codes. I know this is, depending on where you get them, they might be sourced from rather unpleasant machinations, for lack of a better word. But they are open to these third-party activations, and Humble Bundle, I think a lot of their stuff is activated on Steam, or at least it used to be. I don't know anymore.
And I'll use that as a segue to kind of go into what we were going to talk about today with our games that we've been playing, because Anno, it's funny. I love the game, but it's an Ubisoft game, and it automatically lets me launch it from Ubisoft, even though I bought it on Steam. And I didn't think about it at the time. I was like, oh yeah, it is an Ubisoft game. I just don't think of Anno as an Ubisoft game. I just don't. And so I said, oh, okay. So I ran it off Steam and I didn't have any problems. And I said, you know what? Let me try to do it off the direct launcher, because obviously if it's an Ubisoft game, it's going to send me to that launcher and it's going to launch from the background. I said, why don't I just do it from Ubisoft? It performs worse straight from Ubisoft. So case in point, like Steam just does it better. I don't know why.
I think we had the same thing with XCOM. You always had to run XCOM through the Firaxis launcher, I think it is. And apparently it was surprisingly resource hungry, because I would get demonstrable frame rate decreases. I would have to lower settings if I ran it through there. So you ended up using the Steam launch options to bypass it. And in the last year or two, they actually got rid of the Firaxis launcher. I think it's been completely retired, which oddly enough broke the game for a lot of people because they now can't launch it. It's one of those peculiar things where they've actually created a new problem by addressing one that was already there. But you'll often find that these third-party launchers, companies often have an obsession with making these really beautiful, really overdone launchers, and it takes resources. And I don't know if you saw recently, but there was, and I'll find it for you so you can maybe use it if you want to in the screen. There was a quite large, I believe, study recently done of what rig are people actually using for gaming. People have my rig. People have their 5-year-old laptops. People have their gaming PCs from 2018. Most people aren't playing on top-end rigs. It's a really small number. Most people are in the low-mid systems. We don't want all those extra things running in the background, taking the resources that we have, because we don't really have any to spare.
That's been the norm overall in gaming. There's always a tech wave, and then games chase that, and then the populace by far is like 3 or 4 years back at least. It's always been that way.
At least.
Yeah. The only time that changed maybe was during COVID. We've talked about COVID a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's probably the only time that maybe there was a narrowing of that gap. But I upgraded my rig just for Cyberpunk when it was going to come out. I was like, I'm not going to have any issues on my end for not being able to play Cyberpunk. And it wasn't on my end.
True.
But I did, like, what is wrong with this game? I did have that moment. I was like, what did I do something wrong? Is something not plugged in?
I think that's such an interesting choice. Of all the games to have upgraded for, the one that then proceeded to absolutely crap the bed. I had the same thing. I think people, you normally need some kind of impetus, don't you, to upgrade? You don't upgrade for no reason. There are a very, very small minority of people playing games who will upgrade because they just want to upgrade. They just want to keep their rig cutting edge. That's what it is. Most people are playing with pre-built machines. Most people don't know how to open, no matter how easy we say it is, most people don't know how to open their PCs. They don't know how to put a graphics card in. They're upgrading when they buy a whole new one. People aren't doing that every year. And more people, I would imagine, are playing on their consoles and on their phones. You're not upgrading, well, actually your phone you might upgrade every year, but I think it's a very different relationship, phone gaming. You don't tend to need to max out the system. But for myself, I upgraded to a PS5, which is my last big upgrade, because I didn't want anything between me and Final Fantasy Rebirth and Final Fantasy 16. I needed a game that I desperately wanted to play before that upgrade was worthwhile. And in that case, that's what it was for me.
And it makes more sense on a console. I mean, obviously that's why people go to consoles, because it is more affordable and it is a little bit easier to obtain that. You don't have to narrow that gap for all things. You don't have to make sure that your computer's top notch just to run well, you know? So,
well, I know if I buy a PS5 game, I can play it on my PS5. 100%. It might be on 30 FPS. I mean, PS5 often they're not, but it might be 30 FPS. It might be downgraded resolution-wise from what I could do on a PC, but I know I can run it. I know I'm not going to have to juggle around the settings to decide, oh, actually, will I trade off the shadows against particle effects to gain a few FPS? No. It's going to run on that computer, and I can play the damn game. And it's the advantage that consoles will always have. Weirdly enough, the advantage PCs always have is exactly the same. The advantage of the PC is you can make those choices. It's just, are you the person who wants those choices, or are you the person who would just, like me, would you prefer to just have the game say, I'm set up, come and play?
Expedition 33 is using the Unreal 5 engine, which most games that are coming out, most people are not going to be able to play it on their system that's a little aged, you know? Mm-hmm. But that one could, as you said. It's not the best at in all scenarios, but you can play it. It's a big difference.
Yeah. And I think you've really hit the nail on the head with Unreal 5. It's not even the Unreal 5, although it is showing itself to be an engine that's very finicky. There's not many engines that inherently have bad performance, but it seems that mastering Unreal 5 seems to be something that, how can we delicately say it, studios are still struggling to do. So you do end up with these performance issues. But it's not something we're going to see change anytime soon, I don't think, because of how accessible the engine is. Metal Gear Solid 5 runs so well, I'd imagine because it's run on that proprietary engine. It was designed by that studio pretty much for Metal Gear Solid. It wasn't used for much else except maybe some sports games, maybe some other things now, I don't know for sure. But Unreal 5, it's a very versatile engine. It's understood by almost everyone. It's relatively easy to use. It's got this blueprint system so that even though I believe Unreal Engine, I believe any coding you do in the game is C++. I believe that's what's built in. You don't need to use C++ to actually work with the game. You can use their blueprints and actions systems, which let you just sort of like point and click and drag what you want to happen. But the trouble is, when they abstract away that complication, when they abstract away the memory management that you get with C++, it slows down. Because we're taking that out of your hands and we give you these very, very general one-size-fits-all solutions for problems, for algorithms. And you can't really, well, you can, but you often won't refine it further. because you'll get the system working and move on to whatever's coming next.
It's hard to see like what doesn't look right because it looks good.
Yeah. And honestly, if it's running well, not great, but if it's running well, the system works. Are you really going to send a large part of the dev team off to go and like refactor all that code and go back and check in and say like, okay, what can we do better? Where could we manually assign memory to speed this up? Why would you do that when you can say, I've got a new feature? And maybe it would be better to go back. Maybe that would be better. But I don't think it's the way the companies work. And I include in that companies that we give credit, like Sandfall Interactive, who did Expedition 33. Yeah, they're a company I give a lot more credit to than Ubisoft, but in the end, they still need to get a finished game out there. They still need the money they're going to get from it. They've got salaries to pay. They can't be the golden child at all moments. At some point, they will surrender that improvement process, that refactoring process, just to get more features out, just to work more on the game. And it just means you end up with a game that's not wonderfully optimized.
It's funny, like over the years, I kept hearing like there's so much talent at Ubisoft, and I kept seeing what they would put out. I would be like, where's all this coming from though? And you know, I would hear it and like, I don't know, but I would hear that. It's like there's so much talent at Ubisoft being wasted. And then people would leave, make their own studios, like at Sandfall, like you said, like Ad Hoc for made Dispatch from Telltale. They're all Ubisoft, former Ubisoft. We're starting to see it. Yeah, they had the talent this whole time.
I think most studios do, because it's such a passion industry, gaming. No one gets into video game design because they wanted the money. No one gets into it for the pussy. You know, that's not a thing. You get into it because you love games. And
That's your Kojima.
You get into it because you love games, because you want to make the games that you want to play. But there's also the reality that people need paychecks and they need salaries. And these big companies, they offer you that. They offer you the security. There will be people who could have left Ubisoft to join Sandfall. I'm not even talking the founders, but there will surely have been people who would think, well, I could probably make a better game over there. On the other hand, they do pay into my pension. And I've got a nice salary, and I know it's okay, because Ubisoft, and maybe this will age like milk, I don't know, but it's probably not going anywhere. Sandfall, before Expedition 33 was released, you didn't know if that studio was hanging around. These studios all have massively talented developers. It's the studios who don't want to use them. I wouldn't even say don't know how. I would say they generally don't want to use them.
Yeah, and then with this Dispatch game, you know, it'd been on the books for like 5+ years, and it was like, well, what's going on with that? But the thing is that they had contract obligations to help with The Wolf Among Us Part 2, which never came out. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Gamers Advocate podcast, where we mainly covered Steam topics, things that would be relevant to how the Steam machine is going to be impacting future games and gaming. But if you like the episode, like it. And subs are always free on YouTube. We are on multiple audio format podcast channels, Spotify, iTunes, and of course, YouTube podcasts. If there's a subject you'd like for us to cover, or if there's something in this podcast or past podcasts that we didn't cover adequately, just make sure you let us know in the comments. Comments really help us motivation and also determining what topics to cover for you guys. We'll check you guys later. Bye-bye.